Town and Centennial Towers in West Bay, and by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Another terrific Thursday. Days of thoughtfulness and being thankful. We invite you to be a part of the discussion as we have the excellent company of Miss Emily Decoux. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to Mr. Emily Decoux for accepting the invitation. You know, we've tried to build Thursdays as a thoughtful Thursday. And let's have that notion of discussions that, to my mind, hopefully will encourage and inspire people, nurture their thoughts, get them to a space of, not just being courageous, but being convinced that their voice should and deserves to be heard. And in a society that has been championing democracy. We read in our history books, for instance, that during World War II, we probably was one of the top nations per capita, where a percentage of our male population volunteered and served, for the Allied forces during World War II. But we see that commitment to community. We see that concerted effort by our people to give, to be charitable. And I think as we look at the Cayman Islands today, with all the different nationalities here, we have a very caring, giving spirit. So with that in mind, how can we think, talk, act, do, ensure that as a people we unite, we come together, and we put the country first? And as a result, we will benefit. A stable, a very, very, very civil and stable, very safe, very wonderful place. But only if we work together. So, Miss Emily, a pleasant again and blessed good afternoon to you.
Thank you so much again, Sterling, for having me on. It's always a pleasure to come in and talk. But yes, to your point, absolutely, I agree. We need to foster more of a culture of that community. Community translates to immunity, I like to say. And when we're all aligned in a similar value and vision of what we value, which is our healthy environment around us, our flourishing communities, we will fight for that, similarly to how our ancestors fought for our protection as a nation many, many moons ago. But, there's that fight continues in different ways today. It's not as, a battlefield with artillery, but, we definitely have to stand up and advocate for better, for our health, our planet's health, our community's health. And that will definitely go down in history. And future generations will look back with pride on ancestors who fought for their rights and their healthy resources.
Something I've been intrigued by recently, as I speak to a few of the sociologists that I know here and other places, or those who say they like to study human behavior, to them with the psychologists. And I want to ask, through you and to the wider public as we get into a discussion, in order to have that sort of societal ethos that talks about the civility, that talks about, as you say, community, right?
Community equals immunity.
Equals immunity,
Immunity,
right?
yeah.
And you share that in number of times with us, even the last time when you were here and with me in our conversations. I think if we understand, so for me, that means now we need to be united in our endeavors to ensure that a space and place in which we occupy is the very best for our safety. I question, does it mean then that we need to have a homogenous society?
I definitely think we need to have a homeostatic community, one that it exists to maintain a standard that is, when we know better, we do better. We implement the better solution, and that becomes the standard. That's the world that I would like to see us gravitate towards. You talk about the fact that we have so many different nationalities in Cayman, and we definitely need to get everybody on the same page, because a lot of people come from different nations where their ancestral wisdom is a bit different from ours. But if we blend them together with the common vision that, we want to be a harmonious society, we want to be a healthy, happy, thriving society. And how do we get there? It's not, we don't have to recreate the wheel. Like the solutions exist around us.
You don't need to be homogenous to be harmonious.
No.
And I think last evening, I love Radio Cayman. I love listening to it. Whether you hit 7 to 8 p.m. and you get some local flavor, or you manage to catch it after 10 o'clock in the night after the news. I think it's a John Lennon Imagine a song, right? And the lyrics of that are telling. Now, for many of us, we believe and that to do that, you need to be this docile approach. I say that to say that, as you just said, we're not talking about picking up arms, but we're talking about unifying voices.
Absolutely.
A collective effort. And I question sometimes whether the word democracy to us is somehow misconstrued, misapplied, misunderstood, or worse, just disrespected.
I definitely think there's a conversation to be had about the state of our democracy. When you come to the realization that unless we're holistically advocating for better within our communities, our economy, and within our policy, then our democracy is not actually functioning as it should.
Yeah. I saw something just the other day, and we are speaking to Miss Emily DeCoe, and certainly the phone lines are open. The more that we sort of share our collective thoughts, I think the better we, community equals immunity, right? All right. Yeah. It's not a slogan. It's a mantra. Yeah. And this was, it has a proper title to it, and I certainly, academics among us would remind me of what it is. But, when a person is thinking of, it's not just a thesis statement. When they're going to do some further research, they put together a paper and they get it, sort of review as to what it is. And so this is what this was in relation to the thing. And we're talking about the American context. Is the U.S. a democracy? Now, I'm paraphrasing only for me to be able to, what I think was the gist of what this person was going to research. And I kept saying that as we go back to his founding fathers, not a historian, certainly not an expert in the U.S. Constitution or anything, but it says, as a republic, then I was expecting that certain things would be paramount. And as we look at what has been happening in the 21st century, is this notion of what is sort of perceived as a democracy, actually what it is, has it taken away under the guise of a democracy the freedoms of its populace, and it's no akin more to a dictatorship. I think that's the gist of it. And I share that to say that, was it last year that the Prime Minister of Jamaica, when the royal visited and whenever was saying, hey, like Barbados and the rest, we're going to go on that track that we want to be a republic. Many individuals, in their respective nations, have seen the discussions relative to the Commonwealth and the like. Not talking about independence of nations or even of people, but independence of thought and the freedoms to be able to criticize as well as to champion, the freedoms to be able to stand up and assemble and say, hey, listen, we would like, is it in Peru now? Or as my friends say, in Peru? Susan, como se dice? Peru? Right? The notion of a democracy is people must be able to freely assemble, to worship, to praise, to complain, as it were, to action. I wonder if in the Cayman context of today, that we're not doing that, or are we?
That's a very layered conversation to have. For
It is
sure.
Thoughtful Thursday.
It is very much Thoughtful Thursday. That's a thought and a half. A lot of food for thought. But I definitely think there needs to be partnerships, collaboration, like genuine. We're all of the same mindset that these are our goals. A great place to start would be the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
We all unite and create partnerships, which is one of the goals, to meet these goals by a certain period, and all our professions and ways of living move in that direction. And it solves other problems. But to your point about way of thinking, I think there's definitely in our current time, a lot of room for expanding our way of thinking. A lot of people, it's just human nature. We get comfortable, and the status quo becomes our comfort zone, and we are so exhausted, and that's by design. To not be, not really have the capacity to critically think. Sometimes we just want the convenience. That is by design.
Yeah.
But when I strongly believe that, just through incorporating more sustainable habits, we really can kind of pull back and get our self-sufficiency back. And, we're not asking for our government to fly us to the moon. We're asking for basic things like energy security, food security, climate resiliency, right? We're not... What are we working towards if we're not working towards these things which benefit us all and future generations?
I'm intrigued that many times some of us, but it's collectively, right? So, we repeat things like parents without actually questioning. For those who trust but verify, good friends used to, her German and her Russian and her other languages that she speak as a polyglot, much better than mine. But, Dobanaya no Probanaya, the idea that if we don't verify that thing, and when the fact checkers do, that there's a fact checker, who's guarding the guards, sort of thing, that in our society today, we are willing not only to be laid to slaughter, but to be cheering and championing as we go along, singing Kumbaya, and no, don't bother. We don't need anesthesia when you hit the execution. I'm questioning to what extent the critical thinker, the informed consumer, is there. I want to be, sort of led by you, please. When we return, we can take up the mantle, we continue, as a thought leader, and maybe ask some of the questions. And we hear, the SDGs, and then we read about the ESGs.
Yeah.
What's the difference, and to what extent that national security, from the food perspective, from the safety and the quality of life, can they meld together? And is it that we elect people and appoint people and leave it to them because they have the blueprint and intelligence, as I think Mr. McKeever accused someone once a long time ago of having blueprint and intelligence, or didn't? Or is it for us, the populace? And if it is us, the populace, is it us, the voters, that take the lead, or us, the general populace? To see where it goes. Now, if you're enjoying your fried fish fritters and a little bit of scorched breadfruit with some pepper sauce, good for you. Take a picture and send it to us, at least, if you can bring us a piece. And if all you got in your hand is all you got in your hand, think about what we're saying, share with what you're thinking, and give us a perspective. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or 949-6990. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045, and pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
The MedLab team would like to extend their congratulations to all of the Heroes Day awardees. Thank you for your service.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brack and Little Cayman. poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you can afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu, starting at just $3.50, gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shudden Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value menu, the deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Talk to Dick. But I do have some questions. Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
A very good afternoon to everyone, and again, very, and I say this with the greatest of love. The guests who come into the studio, especially at lunchtime, I don't know about anybody else, but lunchtime there's a reason why it's lunch time, So you don't get to eat when you normally eat. You eat before or eat after. So when you take time out of their schedule, like you do, Miss Emily, very grateful. Those of you who are listening, hopefully we adding to your lunch. And Emily Duku, as we went into the break, I was asking a few things, layered as you said, with much, but you're a strong intellect, a lady with an incredibly giving heart, and it's evident that you love the country and the community. So share with us.
Thank you, and I want to thank all the listeners for tuning in on, like Sterling said, on your lunch break. I'm really grateful that you've given us your time, and both of us are here as thought leaders, as you say, and advocates for being the voice of Cayman in our individual ways. Before we got to the break, we were talking about ESG versus the SDGs, and that's a conversation that feeds heavily into our professions, our occupations, but also in our lives as consumers who have the capacity to demand better alternatives. When we understand fully how our current conventional lifestyles are really affecting things that, I strongly believe that a solution isn't a solution if it creates another problem. We end up working in reverse. But when we look at things like the ESG standards that exist, and ESG stands for Environmental and Social Governance, so that's when a company makes commitments to increase what they see on their bottom line. They'll sometimes have a few bottom lines, showing profit, but also their their investments into the community, through philanthropic sponsorships, as an example, or for staff who attend volunteer work in the community, that kind of thing, but also perhaps donating to conservation efforts in the country that they do business in. And this is heavily relevant when it comes to our financial services industry, which ESG and the financial services industry go hand in hand. And these are, if you can think of any issue when it comes to things that contribute to our global demise as a planet, which is really what we're looking at. Deforestation, oil exploration, mining, that kind of stuff, investments into furthering industries such as the petrochemical industry, automobile industries, which focus more on diesel and gas-powered vehicles versus electric vehicles. But ESG shows us that the solutions exist, and it creates a framework that allows any business, if they're not perhaps in the field of doing something that is sustainable for the planet, how they can transition to doing so, or how they can spread their profits more into sort of undoing the perhaps damage that they are doing. So, looking at those profits and saying, hey, rather than the full Monty that you would normally get as shareholders, we're going to actually put that back into the community. We're going to invest in conservation locally, because we recognize, as an example, that perhaps, if we're a paper company, that we are cutting down trees, maybe we want to protect mangroves, as an example.
Right.
So the SDGs stand for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is a global standard that many countries, including our own, have committed to reaching by 2030, which is not that far away, 7-ish years, six and a bit. And that is fast approaching, and everything that we do, we could be doing slightly better, myself included. Not perfect. I don't expect when I advise my clients through my sustainability consultancy firm that they should have perfect sustainable lifestyles. It's just about small little things that you can implement and incorporate in your life and your business operations that over time translate to saving or making money. Protecting the environment, and really investing in your investment, whether that be your property, your lifestyle, what you hold dear to your heart, whether that be family time or giving back to your community through volunteering. It's small things that over time accumulate to large, significant changes for not only your health, but your resources, your bottom line, and your community's health.
And with that in play, as we look at it, we're talking about things that for many of us may seem, sensible, but how for that small entity as well as for that larger sort of multinational, how achievable is it? And is it that we need to have a big sort of foray into it, or is that individual effort, on a collective basis, impactful?
Right. I think that there definitely needs to be a more holistic approach to making these, the attainment of these goals more efficient for not only policymakers but businesses. When you speak to local businesses, why are there not as many sustainable solutions in your stores as there are on, Amazon? That kind of example. And the answer is simply it's really economically not in their best interests.
Right. So you remember earlier when I said, spoke to the sociologists and psychologists, and quick disclaimer, of all the subjects that we should study, economics is the best one and the only one that everybody should study, right? No bias there at all. And in speaking to the economists, that's where these things come into play, because you see both the qualitative and the quantitative.
Yes.
So as I interject what you were sharing, I was asking, we have different groups of people and they overlap, and they're sometimes they're one and the same. So the voter, who's also a customer, who's also probably an employee, plus all these things. How do we get the individual? And back to economics, demand usually would probably dictate whether the product is a success or not, and the consumer voting with its wallet, deciding, we want this product, no, we don't want it, we prefer this other thing. That's the end. So the company is looking for its bottom line.
Yeah.
If the consumer was to say, listen, no, we don't want that. That thing is poisonous. We don't think it's harm, as beneficial to the environment, whatever it is. How do we get, first off, should we be looking at that? And if so, how do we get there?
Definitely agree that we should be looking at that. That comes from exercising, your democratic right to advocate for better. I mean, this goes so beyond you, but it does directly affect you strongly.
So let's take those other two groups, the employee and the customer, and let's just focus on one other group, the voter, right? And I'm not picking on the voters, but only because if we're back to that thing that we say we are, democracy, in the absence of any other sort of mechanism, political governance, the democracy says, hey, you people have at this time this opportunity to do this thing. And then when you go there, it's a free and fair election. These people are then elected, whether you're duped by them, whether you get caught up in the Kool-Aid drinking, whatever it is that happens in that environment, right? But at the end of the day, the voter to me is the person who calls the shots. So a good friend reminded me just a few minutes ago, as he did a few weeks ago, that as voters, there is a political party, there's a grouping, there's a political individual, glossy, very wonderful, we call it a manifesto, with 1,000 things on it, and beautiful, this wonderful presentation. And then you go through it, are we, how do we say, get caught up in the hype? Are we looking at it constructively and assessing it to say, man, you want to do 1,000 things? Wow, they sound great. But like the business, the managers by objectives, is this realistic? So is it that the voter isn't doing what's the
due diligence?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the primary thing that you, thank you, in the private sector? Due diligence,
Yeah.
right? Are we as voters doing that, even if we don't call it that? Or are we saying, hey, guy, $25? You bought me a book bag? Cool. I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I'm trying to make it a little bit lighthearted, but this is serious, right? Are we doing that as the voter?
As somebody who has had the sheer pleasure of, foraying into the political arena, and it was a pleasure because it taught me a lot.
True honor and pleasure.
It was an honor. It was a humbling experience, and I'm very grateful for the support I got, and still get to this day. Platforms like this wouldn't have been made possible if I hadn't raised my voice and fought for what I believed was right. But at the end of the day, we need to look at it like that. Like we have to fight for what we believe in. Make this isn't a debate. This is the survival of the thing I hold dear, my beloved Isle Cayman. Yeah. Right? And how do we go about our day-to-day lives making better decisions, advocating with decision makers and policy makers within our own organizations as employees, but also as voters, influencing policy. Like you said, during elections, a lot of people will come out with their very glossy manifestos, and I particularly noticed that a lot of people had to really actively refer to their manifestos in order to carry on a conversation, which to me just spoke to do you not know what you're standing for?
Who wrote this thing for you?
Right? And
sorry.
You're fine. No, it's absolutely true. And you got to look at the, track records as well. But there are a lot of nuances to policy. I'm not, I'm realistic. I understand it's not just the people express they want XYZ and next day policymaker implements XYZ. There's a process, and there are a lot of collaborations that need to take place among many ministries, and I understand it. Like I was saying before, we're not asking to be flown to the moon as a community. We're asking for, basic human rights and sustainability to be at the forefront. We're blessed now to have a government that has a ministry of sustainability and climate resiliency, who, for all intents and purposes, are actively working every day in pursuit of that mission.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. I want to share with you. I'm trying to figure out how to read this.
Okay.
To this listener, if you call, I'm sure Susan can manage the buttons to press. I can't read what you wrote the way it's written. Not because I don't understand the language, I can't say the words. So let me figure this out. And I don't like to do this because I think sometimes it takes away from, I call it the passion that people present.
Right.
So, and I will do this because I think it's okay to say, in this instance, here's somebody, if the voice was heard, we will stop and go, that makes sense, We hopefully won't dismiss the parlance, as it were. As we're talking to Ms. Emily DeCool, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990. And what's the WhatsApp number, Ms. Susan? Come on, I got Paul to say it yesterday. Will you join us and say that's the WhatsApp number? Let's see, who we can get it. She's like, what? Come on, Miss Susan, do it first. The WhatsApp number is, I give you the first number, 9.
Sterling. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Miss Susan.
And to the listeners. 925-3261.
We're going to take a vote, right? If you heard yesterday and you hear today, I want to know who said it better. Just like that.
Probably Paul.
Yeah, she said Paul will say Susan. Our voters are going to vote. At the end of the day, the prize is, who listened yesterday and today, who announced the WhatsApp number better, Paul or Susan. So what is it again, Susan? 925?
Oh, you just love to do that, eh? 925-3261.
When we come back, I got to try to share context with that WhatsApp. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
The MedLab team would like to extend their congratulations to all of the Heroes Day awardees. Thank you for your service.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
New year, new arrivals at Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery. Modern and stylish bedroom sets are up to 20% off. Save up to $600 on Beauty Rest Black mattress sets and iComfort mattress sets, including adjustable bases. Our Palliser shipment of quality sofas, sectionals, and sleepers has also arrived with great family-friendly steam-resistant fabrics. Discover all the new arrivals, including plush beanbags. Save now until January 31st, only at Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery, corner of Hospital and Walkers Road.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk to Dick. But I do have some questions. Talk to Dick.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk to Dick.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And very, very, very grateful to Miss Emily Duku, like all of our guests who would come in and share with us not just their company, but their intellect and insight, and maybe inspire the rest of us to consider, what we're saying, how we say it, and when, to whom, and the like. WhatsApp is available to those who either want to record a voice note or who want to type it across, and we'll read it from 92532. What's the number? 32 what? She won't do it again. 61. Nah, I say these numbers so often I think I repeat them in my head at sleep. But toll free 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. Just in the break, I'm always grateful for the opportunities of our listeners who share their perspective. Some will do so privately, some will do so, very publicly, and they'll call in there and say so. Others will say, listen, heads up, here's a thought, here's whatever. This particular listener messaging and sharing what they share with such passion is that if I could perhaps infer and sort of just share the gist of it, is saying, hey, we've elected people over the years and now we have a wonderful opportunity to look, because it may be a looming crisis. It may be something that is absolutely important to address. And if it is asking to what extent things like the gambling and ganja referendum are they a priority relative to the environment, the housing issues, the cost of living and the like, and suggesting that perhaps the government, through its premier and its deputy in particular as the Minister for Finance, to prioritize those things so that they become not just a national discussion but a national priority. I don't think that, despite how it's shared, that it is anything vitriolic or personal or like. It's just maybe a growing recognition that we are in very challenging times with a greater sense of urgency that something should take a priority. If to the caller that's listening that sent a message, if I didn't paraphrase what you shared properly, call us and let us know. But Miss Emily, I mean, that's the challenges, and I say that as I read that again during the break, to go back, if he doesn't mind, or his parents and family, Chad Anthony Powell Jr.'s address. Young student, I had the pleasure, was that last year? geez, seems like so long ago. He was in the audience with some of the students talking about some career options, and he was talking, and you could see a very engaged young man who had, not only to my estimation as a parent, who had the confidence but the obvious support of family to be an independent thinker. And then when he makes his presentation just in that hall within the House of Commons, to say, hey, we talked about many things that are important, but let me share with you what's absolutely pressing in my own country. If that doesn't serve as a wake-up call, and I use that to reference what this person just shared, that hey, we got a lot of things, but are there other things that are more important? And although this listener did not say this, I wonder if by extension it doesn't come back to what I was saying earlier, the voter. Hey, we can blame, but if we don't unite, if we don't think, talk, act, then it's all for naught.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Several thoughts, but yes, Thoughtful Thursday. Yes, I think there definitely needs to be a sort of more level playing field when it comes to cross collaboration between the community, between policymakers, to, like I said, ensure that people are acting and consuming and running their businesses as efficiently as possible, so their local economy can be healthy, which benefits the community and feeds into government revenue. Like it's a very cyclical thing. Nature works very circularly, if that's even a word. But
it will be now.
It will be now, right? And when we talk about policies and the way that the world is turning, this critical time that we're in now, we desperately need to get on the same page of this is about our survival, and we need to actively make investments into this. In Cayman, we got two guaranteed things every year: heat and hurricanes. And unfortunately, we're looking at those getting worse. The heat is going to get hotter. The planet is warming, and the storms are going to be getting more intense. To me, I have spoken to policymakers, and there is a sort of attitude of, we're not in the middle of a climate crisis. We don't need to actively rush to make sure that these policies are a priority. We don't need to make sure that people are in safe housing that's climate resilient, is the attitude. And when you look at their commitments politically versus their outcome, a lot of people have been in office for a very long time, and you do genuinely, I wonder what is taking so long to ensure that people have affordable housing, affordable energy security, and access to nutritious local foods that don't break the bank, and people aren't deciding between their CUC bill and their grocery bill and their daycare bill and this and that.
I have been invited recently to do a few things, and whereas we may do it independently, it's always good when you do it deliberately with someone who either says to you, I want to see if this is real, sort of, I guess, akin to the scientist who has a hypothesis and wants to check it, right? And I think a lot of us are doing it. So one was a question of homelessness. The other had to do in light of, we had a national assessment of living conditions many years ago. What is the quality of life? What is the cost of living? How are people living? And there were two things that were evident, to your point, and to our listeners, perhaps we can weigh in on that. The housing, the cost of housing, how many people actually have somewhere to stay. This individual was of the view that we're not seeing the extent to homelessness in this country. And it's not just the Caymanian who has a connection, who no longer has a house for whatever reason. The person's view was that in the past, we had extended family who allowed different family members to stay with us in different capacities, and maybe they rotate, maybe where they stayed was just, but that for whatever reason is no longer a viable option or as long-term as it once was. But secondly, how many individuals who are here on a work permit, not just illegal, because we may not know that number, but who are here legally, they themselves are quote-unquote homeless. That may offend a number of the sections of our legislation and the like. So we did a couple of drives recently, especially being cold, and the person's view is that over there, someone's staying there, someone's staying there, someone's staying there. And when approached, to charities and other government entities were made, it would appear that they're saying, listen, we're getting an increasing, number of requests. Is that an issue that we are only now acknowledging? Is it an issue that we're like, you know what? Don't talk about that. That don't happen here in Cayman. It's not really a big thing. I want to wonder. I honestly wonder.
No, I mean, the housing crisis in Cayman really is a crisis. You've got an entire generation, mine, that, it's a big group of young people who are not, they can't grasp the concept of ever owning property in their own home. And it's...
And with that in mind, right? Let me perhaps, because this person is sending a message, but it's not coming through, so I'll try to reset. When certain sectors in the private sector the other day were referencing, I think it was the construction and hospitality. Hey, we got an issue finding housing, not just available housing, but that's affordable if it's available for the workers we bring in. Getting to this person and others who say, well, why is that not an issue when it affects people that we bring in? Is it an issue for people that are already here, including Caymanians, right? So why is it that we give priority to some things to accommodate others, but the same concession, the same level of importance and urgency isn't extended to our own? And I wonder if it's a blame game. Who's to blame? If it's a game that's been ignored, what's the reason for it? Because the housing isn't just something that you shared, being able to afford it. Miss Susan is either pointing at the stars or she's saying, hey boy, you got a news break. So we'll do that. All right, let's check the phones are working. All right. Susan, did you drop off the check to pay the free phone? Yeah, I think she checked it out. Yeah. Was it signed? We're not sure. All right, call us, let us know. 1-800-534 either 255 949 either 37 949 6990 and share your thoughts. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Department of Agriculture has received results for the PCR test from a laboratory in the U.S. that confirms that avian influenza was not found in the samples submitted for testing, taken from 5 birds in a local poultry flock, with suspected positive results from preliminary rapid antigen tests. In international news, King Charles has asked for a surge in profits from 6 new offshore wind farms on the Crown Estate worth £1 billion to be used for the wider public good rather than the royal family. The royal household public funding is based on 25% of Crown Estate profits, but King Charles wants to reduce this percentage so that more is kept by the Treasury to be used for public spending. The King spoke of the pressures of the cost of living in his Christmas speech. In his Christmas message, King Charles highlighted the pressures of the cost of living crisis, and he seems to be taking action to avoid what could have been an awkward surge in income for the royals. Actor Alec Baldwin will be charged with involuntary manslaughter over the shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was killed on a film set when he fired a prop gun. Mr. Baldwin had been rehearsing a scene for the Western film Rust when the shooting happened at a ranch near Santa Fe, New Mexico in October 2021. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the film's armorer, will also be charged. Lawyers for both said they intended to fight the charges in court. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands. Hinton Roxroy Connolly was born in Creek, Caymanbrac on 9th September 1937. Fondly known as Big H to his family and friends, following a 5-year career at sea, Mr. Hinton returned to Caymanbrac taking up work with Brack Power and Light Company for 3 years prior to moving to Grand Cayman, where he commenced employment with Cable and Wireless in March 1966. Big H would eventually move back to Cayman Brack, working his way up from a linesman to a supervisor throughout the 29 years of employment with Cable and Wireless, eventually retiring in August 1994. Following his retirement, Mr. Hinton continued to do electrical work for the many people of Cayman Brack. Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us in the studio, Miss Emily Duku, and as we, talk about all the things on the stop for Thursday. I certainly very, very, very grateful for individuals who would make time and share perspective. Always think that it's absolutely imperative to be able to sit and listen and to reason. I know we were rushed, so thank you for that. But as we go through the discussion, I invite you to share, and I'll try to keep up and follow along.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again, Sterling, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in. Today we're talking about how can we shape our thinking to be one that's more sustainable and holistic when it comes to acting as individuals, as consumers, as citizens, as voters, as business owners, as employees. It's a talk that should be framed from the sense of, this is just common sense. This is not a thing that we have to figure out. This is something we get to figure out. We are a very intelligent species that has come up with incredible feats of engineering, and you're trying to tell me that we can't figure out the, sustainable, how to implement more sustainable policies? That's, I'm not going to be insulted like that. I don't want to see Caymanian people continue to be insulted. Yeah. We are, sort of exhausted into believing that the status quo is the only option that we have. Yeah. Resourcefulness and sustainability is in our DNA as island people. There were centuries and millennia that we existed without the boat coming in every week with, corned beef. Not a boat that come in with the corned beef, but realistically, we understood that if we didn't take care of the breadfruit trees, we not gonna have no bread kind. Yeah. If we didn't make sure the North Sound was flourishing with snapper and lobster and conch, the children not eating. The neighbors aren't, eating. This is our pharmacy. This is our natural hospital. Is bush medicine is part of our DNA, our culture, our heritage, and we are in a very cool time. I'll say that it's a cool time where we have the information technology at our fingertips to access wealth of knowledge and how to make ourselves self-sufficient and rely on our ancestral wisdom, but then using the technology at our fingertips to disseminate that information and to implement those and innovate more solutions, and really blend the technology with the wisdom to move forward. That's where I see the direction that we all collectively, globally need to shift towards. Right. And it's about challenging the status quo, critically thinking, how does my profession, how do I go into work every day and make a difference for the things that I value? What do you value? Do you value time at home with your family? Do you value a clean, healthy environment so that when you go to the beach, you're not snorkeling with plastic?
Or you're not walking on the beach and stepping on certain things and,
exactly.
affronted by other things. Okay.
Exactly. And we're not, creating health hazards in our environment. We really need to, recognize that quality of life is extremely important. It's very fragile. And governments, decision makers, and policy makers, and we as individuals and as consumers and voters can feed into ensuring that our quality of life is prioritized. Our government's sole role is to ensure our safety and health.
As you were talking about, way back when we were talking good corporate citizens when it came to business practices, and now we've evolved that. We have terminology, and sometimes I question whether we just assign labels to things. We have a nice marketing PR and it sounds good, but we do nothing.
Yeah.
But I then ask, we have indices that indicate for some of us how a country is viewed relative to the quality of life standard living for its people, and what is the, what metrics are being sort of employed. At once, GDP was that was it. Now we're seeing other things, the quality of life index, for instance, as to what it is. I then ask, in the Cayman context, where we knew what we had that was good, we didn't necessarily have a label assigned to it. There was an international standard, but we knew it was good. And yet, for some reason, we're allowing that practice, that custom, that history, that heritage, that culture, that ethos to be not just subjugated, but to be denigrated, disrespected, to be devalued,
diluted.
That's
what I'm seeing.
Right?
Yeah.
And when individuals speak out, just take for instance, the late Miss Consuelo. She was a champion. She shared what she shared. Is it that we're not willing to listen because we can't hear in our hearts what the voice is saying? Is it we're not willing to pay attention to try to understand? Is it we discredit because we know the person, but the people that come from elsewhere that we know nothing about, we celebrate and elevate. They come to our shows, and this is not about us and them. We find out quickly that, wow, they're shyster, right? But for some reason we ignore it. Somebody, they need a second chance. But wait a minute, you ain't giving your own a first chance. How do we change that? Why is it that we are willing to quickly say, "Well, crabs in a barrel"?
Yeah, right. I definitely see that. We're almost our own worst enemy in some ways, and we've welcomed a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing and idolize that and are emulating that actively. We are working in reverse in a lot of ways. We are trying to maintain an appearance, maybe appearance isn't the right word, but we're trying to maintain a lot of unsustainability, and in doing so, we're moving more away from the goals. Like we're actively moving the goalposts when we don't ensure that there's fair representation of not only people who want to invest inwardly with foreign equity into our communities, but is that investment coming at the cost, or is that becoming an asset for the community that's being invested into? Are we taking that duty that's being a lot of concessions are given on duty for construction is a great example. Like that duty that should have been collected would have gone into critical infrastructure, schools, roads, health services. And when we don't collect that duty, we don't have that investment. And that's where that corporate citizen should step in, and decision and policymakers should be actively working towards finding the solution. Again, going back to that, something we get to do, not something we have to do. Create, like, as you said on the break, what is it? We're actively looking for solutions to problems, not problems to solutions.
I can't credit for that. The former parliamentarian, Mr. Miller, had shared a number of times publicly. We seem to be still looking, solutions to problems. We want to find problems for solutions.
Exactly.
And when he first said it, however many years ago, I heard it and I go, but as you think about it, and there are those of us who are obstructionists, who are contrarian. There are those of us who deliberately, not to critique in order to assess, in order to get a better outcome. Well, we're just going to be, what's good way to say it? Troublemakers?
We're just going to be stagnant. We're going to remain with this hard-headed approach. And unfortunately, a lot of people are, what I find, and I was guilty of this for a very long time, are just so disconnected from nature because they're working such long hours in these offices that they don't recognize that nature is a very powerful force, and that if we do not step up to meet her in the middle, she's going to humble us if we do not humble ourselves.
I'm mindful how I say this because I do not like to speak out of school. I do not like to say things that others may infer incorrectly many times, and we live in a community where seemingly we like to blackguard. We like to, see things and extrapolate and malign, sadly. But our interaction as a people with nature, I wonder if, as you shared, why we don't do it. The long hours that we work, when we're home, we're tired, we have other taxing endeavors to attend to? Is it that it's so hot, right? So it's been relatively cool recently. I find that being at Barkas is just, it's just amazing,
heaven.
right?
Yes.
I probably would offend people if I said, man, up there should be protected and little or no activity should ever take place.
I don't care who I offend.
Right?
That place should be protected.
Yeah, because there are very few places in the world that you can go where you can get a reprieve like nature would offer. I have no interest in getting in a spaceship and going into outer space.
Yeah.
If I can't see it from a telescope, I'm not interested in going, right?
You don't got to Savagate on the moon, you know.
There you go, right? I mean, I'm sure the altitude adjustment could be different, right? Yeah. I equate Barkas to what I would find in a library.
Yeah.
Solitude, peace.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Solace. And you go into a library and it's almost as if just by osmosis you become, better, right? Yes. Barkas is the same thing.
Very much so.
My friend Isaac and Nobi tell me East End is the same. I don't dispute it, right? But if we lose that, then not only do we not have it, but future generations won't, and rightfully so. They're going to say, but what were wrong with you people?
Genuinely, yes.
Yeah. And I don't understand, and I refuse to accept why we're doing what we're doing the way we're doing it, knowing what the outcome has been, look like it is, and potential will be. You ever played football with a cliff rock? The first time you kick that, you gotta learn how to kick it again.
Yeah, who don't hear must feel.
They're deliberately otherwise, and that's what we're doing. Yeah. Not just a cliff rock. We got a bunch of them. So, is it the hard-headedness? Is it the arrogance? Is it the insolence that we exhibit for each other? What is it?
I think what it boils down to is there's, going back to our lack of access to nature. That's very much by design, and recognizing that as much as we have technology at our fingertips, I very quickly watched as my financial services career went from longer hours to now I'm weekends, now I'm here on holidays, and now I'm like calling in going into the office at 1 a.m. to do stuff, and it's just the reality, and that's the reality for a lot of people in our community, no matter what industry they're in. But I say that to say, the technology that we have that's meant to be making our jobs more efficient seems to have the opposite effect, and is seeming to not be giving us the return on the time that we're putting in, which is that we're having more time to ourselves. That's not happening. And when we don't have connections to nature, and we don't have that spark within us being sparked, I'll say, when I go to Barkas, the inner kid in me comes out, the ancestors in my veins are speaking, because I hear no human interaction. There are some spots where I can look around me and you couldn't tell if you were 500 years ago in the mangroves or if you're in 2023, and it's a beautiful experience. I would love to see more people getting out and just pull off to the side of the road and walk into the bush and look up, kind of, look at and find and explore your island. Like, this is your home, and finding even just one spot that you can consider your happy place that brings you solitude. I am a huge proponent of mental health therapy. It is expensive. One of the most therapeutic things that I have found as somebody who does go to therapy and encourages people to go to therapy, you don't need to have anything with you to seek out professional help in that arena, I believe. But getting in nature has had, sometimes it's like getting a little massage in my brain. It's recharging. It makes you, because you're so focused on all of the things around you that you're not thinking about the cost of living. For if it's even 20 minutes you get out into Barkas, it is soul food. And we really have so much at stake to lose if we don't collectively get on board this train of no, we really take seriously our coastal environment health for these reasons, for the fact that it's climate resiliency from storms, it's flourishing fish population so that our people can continue our strong connection to the sea. He hath founded it upon the seas, right? And our heritage of, thatch making and weaving. If the trees aren't there, we can't teach the children how to weave thatch and show them that, look, this is what we relied on as a trade. We traded thatch rope for, many, many decades. We make crocus socks to put this on in the yard at Christmas. I mean, it's just it is so beautiful.
And I think too that loss of the habitual practices, that disconnect from what we were. And for some of us, it's because that whole thing. No, we're much more modern for that.
Yes.
It's unfortunate, but I also think that it has to occur naturally. It can't be this thing that becomes a display. Over here, you can imagine a tour. Over here, the natives are.
Yes, right.
And then you create, without realizing it, a circus-like environment.
Yeah.
It becomes
commoditizing our heritage. Yeah.
It becomes this thing that it's as if you're watching an old documentary of something that once was. And the joke I've always heard one of my brothers tell one time that I thought was funny, and as I got older I realized why I didn't laugh at it to the extent. The guy's applying for the job, and he needs to. The job is asking what experience you have, right? He's a logger. Looks at him and say, "Well, you don't really look like a logger." What do you mean, you worked in the Sahara forest? It's a desert. He said, yeah, it is now. Right? He was that good at the job. He created it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. We do these things. We don't understand what we've done until it's too late.
Yeah.
We've displaced much. I want to share that in light of what you saying earlier about the issues of energy security, food security, and this listener has a message and asks, not sure what the topic is, but is it possible that we could mention this and bring up the whole issue of the constant power outages that are happening in the BRAC? It's now officially owned by another entity.
Yeah.
Perhaps there'll be more investment to give the Sister Islands, better value and better service. Acknowledges that the staff are excellent, but they're probably in need of much upgrades from the poles to the like they'll make the grid. And I appreciate our listeners sharing that, because I'm asking what are we doing that would better our lives? You were speaking earlier about the practices of old in Cayman, where we value things, and are we discarding them because we think, well, we're better than that? Have we devalued them because we don't understand the importance of it? The backyard garden, right? Go get a couple of sticks of cassava, some tomatoes. Maybe you've got a few fruit bearing trees, and when they're in season, you get some of the things. Are we looking at that and understanding the importance of it, or are we only measuring the society's value, the country's, the SNA, the GDP, and the like, or the person's, per capita income? Or is it that, look at those guys, they're healthy, they're living, they're all 100 plus, they all have active, engaged minds, they're able to engage with nature because it's right outside their doorstep. We don't need to drive, 5 hours to get to the swim park or to the exercise gym. Our society's efforts are cohesive.
A lot of food for thought there. Yes. I think as a people, we really need to look at, ego. And, I see that human nature is, the new shiny thing. Let's get that. That seems like the best, and that's all well and good. But there is a extent to which we should be adopting the latest trends. When we know better, we should be doing better. So it doesn't get to the point where we get too late and we've reached the point of no return, and we can't dial back on a lot of habits that we've snowballed into. It's the attitude, that is the way the society works. We can't adjust. It wouldn't be good for business, the consumers, this, that, and the next, and a lot of excuses get made.
As you speak to Ms. Emla, you said if we know better, we'll do better. I heard, I won't call her name because she said, listen to me, young man. But, and this is why she probably won't like me to say, call her elderly lady. But she is many decades my senior. An amazing
something to be proud of.
Amazing lady, right? She has shared in reference to certain things, but they know better. They are no better, all right?
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't know better, they just know better.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the way she says it, there's no contempt, there is no malice.
Yeah.
She just stated something factual. I had a chance to chat with her over Christmas, and she says that one of the challenges that we're facing today in Cayman is that nobody's willing to speak up, stand up. And partly, to her mind, is that these are not the words she used. She didn't raise her voice in any way. She didn't curse or anything, right? But she says part of it is that the minute you say anything, people look at you if your voice is not singing from the same hymnal.
Mm-hmm.
So you get ostracized, you get maligned and the like. She shared something that transpired many moons ago, where she was part of a group that, my words, were advocating for or against something of the day. And she thought, fair enough, the context was different. Women then were probably like children, seen or heard. That's not a ladylike. But they thought it was important this thing be ventilated. Again, my word. And she shared that she was convinced that however many decades since, it's probably part of the reason why in some instances she's maybe looked at the way she is. But she says, and again, I say this to her, and she say, well, yeah, I guess if you say so. It's like in the words of Bob Marley, the legend of Bob Marley, get up, stand up, right? Stand up for your rights. Is it then, as Mr. Mickey has said many times publicly, that as a people, we lack courage?
Yeah. I think we've been able to be walked all over with our passive, because we're a very peaceful, harmony-seeking people. We're Caymankind, and that is something to be proud of. But we do have laws in effect that are very attractive to people beyond our shores, and we need to make sure that that isn't being exploited to our demise.
Yeah.
We need to understand fully what we're really working on, and does that align with our values and our heritage and traditions. And it comes down to really having a solid collective vision and goal of having a clean, healthy, safe Cayman, right? And framing it so that our children idolize that, our youth look up to that, and they want to replicate that. Every generation just evolves and finds different ways to blend different the elderly generation with the younger generation to move forward, and that's where we're at now. And we don't have a culture, unfortunately, I highly unfortunately, that I think emphasizes the value of our elderly community as much as it should. Look at countries like Japan, for example, another island nation that really prioritizes cultural preservation. And not to say that Japan does everything right, but they certainly are someone to be inspired by. And different islands in that region in general are very inspiring, because they recognize that if we don't abide by certain cultures which ensure that bridge between the generations is a very well maintained bridge, its infrastructure, its knowledge, its resilience, right? This is how this nation has survived for thousands of years. And yes, of course, you've had little bits and pieces here and there that you can think about that maybe didn't scream resiliency, but that's just the way that the world works.
Right. I smiled just then as I was reading the WhatsApp, and I forget sometimes we're on YouTube, so many of us, we don't hear, we see, and sometimes what we see is not necessarily what was heard. Right? So I smile because a person sent through a message, and I'll get to it. They put hashtag Caymankind, so I know you'll like that, and there's a little bit of commentary after that. And for me, I do agree with the person, but I've said this publicly. I wonder, as much as we are very docile, accommodating, hospitable, that kindness, I wonder to what extent I'll use what I hear my marketing friends talk about in a marketing hook. That hashtag Caymankind, we're trying to portray something that embodies who we are, but in so doing, have we done ourselves a disservice? Now, we want to be welcoming, warm, and inviting, hospitable people. That is just who we are. But for me, as a number of people have shared, and as this person just wrote as well, has that been used against us, right? And now it's becoming like anything else, just a marketing ploy, nothing really of substance, and then it's used to beat you up. Because I make no bones about it. I refuse to be relegated to the back of the line. I invite you to come in front of me. You can check out. But if you push in front of me, I'm going to probably tell you about it. Yeah. And that is not something that I did always. Something that I realize I have to do. Because there are some people just believe that they have this, what's the best word? They're entitled, let's use that, to jump in front of you because you're a, whatever, in their eyes.
Yeah.
No.
No, sir.
It don't work that way.
No.
But when you stand up for those things, some of your own, for everybody else, will look at you and say, but I know your mama raised you better than that.
Yeah.
Yes, she did. But at the end of the day, she always would tell me, but you can't make people dig at your eyes and crap down on them.
Absolutely.
Right? You got to stand.
Absolutely.
So what is it going to do?
Yeah.
And how do we get there? Is it that we lack leadership, courage?
One thing that I that comes to mind when I hear that, I said earlier that Caymanian people are just very passive, and that's not nothing to be ashamed of. But in this day and age, I think there's 4 different types of people. There's passive aggressive, there's aggressive, and then there's assertive people. And that's what we need to be more of. We're not being aggressive, we're being assertive. We are asserting. These are our rules. We need to, like we said at the top of the show, we need to do our due diligence on folks. Yeah. Our own people. Like I love the juxtaposition of knowing so many people from so many different backgrounds in this country. And, to me, I'm it surprises me every time I see somebody who's not from here take better care of our island than people who are from here and have 17 generations to talk about. You have to go back to, like I said, there's ego works in healthy ways, but it also works in unhealthy ways. And when you commend those folks in our community who are doing the right work, who are putting a voice to the people, who are standing up and asserting what is right, which is our survival is critical. It's not a negotiation. It's not up for debate. This is our survival.
Well, as we go into the break, and double check and make sure everything's working on the end of on the line of technology, and invite people to call. But you are right, and I did share many years ago that my fear is that as a people, just out of what is transpiring, will go from being this docile, passive, to aggressive, and ignore the importance of being assertive. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm conscious of being a little bit more assertive, only understanding that those people who are near and me and in my company are offended by my assertiveness. Right? So the supermarket line of the day, as we go into the break, fella jumps in. Right? I got 2 items in my hand. He has a cartload, and he's gonna jump in and say, "Me in a Russia." I say, "Well, your time no more important than mine. You can get behind me if the person let you in, or you can do what everybody else do. Wait your turn."
Grandma Dean used to say, "Poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part."
but it happens with everybody, right? Yeah. And accommodation is one thing, concession is another. Mm-hmm. Stupidity is just, unfathomable. Yeah. All right, let's pause. Let's take a break, and when we come back, Miss Susan will remind us of all the phone numbers. That's our exercise during the break, right, Sue? All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway, we're introducing the new Boneless Hot Sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
CUC reminds you always to be aware of power lines. Look before planting trees. Always ensure that the tree you are planting will not grow in overhead power lines. Check with the CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky to ensure your plan of action is safe. Safety first at CUC. The office's dermatologist, Dr. Dwayne Porter, will be taking appointments from January 12th to the 21st at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.porterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
Increase your chances to win during the Rubis Pure Joy promotion. Don't miss Double Stamp Tuesdays and Thursdays at Jose's Rubis. Reflections offers you gas for less, and each time you fuel up at Jose's Rubis, you can enter to win weekly prize giveaways, plus the grand prize of a beautiful piece of land in Grand Cayman.
I'm sorry, what?
What did you say? Yes, Double Stamp Tuesdays and Thursdays are back at Jose's. Lower priced fuel, awesome prizes, and your chance to win a $150,000 piece of land. Don't forget, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Jose's Rubis, you not only get gas for less, you get double stamps to enter to win a $150,000 piece of land in the Rubis Pure Joy promotion. Be entered to win in the Rubis Pure Joy promotion by January 27th.
Can you tell me, what does a turtle do on his birthday? He celebrates.
Celebrate your loved one's special birthday with a birthday shout out live on For the Record with Mr. Oret Connor, only on Radio Cayman. WhatsApp your loved one's name to 925-3261. That's 925-3261. Radio Cayman's birthday shout outs live on For the Record with Mr. Oret Connor every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Brought to you by life insurance agents Michael Webster and Randy Lawson from Cayman Insurance Center. Don't take chances with your family's future.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I always like to engage a wonderful team because they do a fantastic job. But despite being public people, they're very private. So let's see if we can get Miss Susan to have us once a number. There are 3 numbers, 4 numbers, 5 numbers that they can call. Come on, Sue, let's do it again for us. She's like, man, I should get paid for this. I believe she loves her job so much she would do it for free. Well, there you go. All right, so I'm going to say 1-800-534-8255. She's going to tell us the WhatsApp number. I believe it begins with a 9. Come on, Sue. What's the WhatsApp number? 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, or 949-8037. And you can WhatsApp.
Right, and the WhatsApp number is 925-3261. Go ahead and call us.
Okay.
We need some callers, yes.
All right, so guess what? The votes are in. When we asked at the outset, who said it best? And Susan was right. It was Paul.
Oh.
But I think honestly, it was a bias with more women calling. So I got a couple of messages. I only got 4 messages. So that's not definitive.
It counts. It counts. Every voice counts.
And these 4, but I was wondering if they were swayed by his beard or by his voice. So I need to check it out. So we need to extend that survey. Who said it best? Go to the phones, Miss Who? No? All right. 949-8037. But Emily Duku, thanks very much. And speaking with you, I'm wondering to what extent, again, if we're in a democracy, if this is a healthy, functioning, engaged, involved democracy where its voters, and by extension the wider community, are not only willing to pay attention, but either have time or are conscious of making time. The House is in session, there are things before it. Do we know what's happening? Some of us do, some of us to a limited extent, and some of us would say, well, wait a minute, I listened. or the politicians said this, but then I read the media account or heard the news, and that's not exactly what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if we are listening, do we know, and are we understanding?
I think there are definitely a lot of people engaged in ensuring that policymakers, parliamentarians are effective in their roles and trying to do better. A lot of people are juggling families, full-time jobs, health stuff, and struggle. But again, it's very much by design. It's very much to allow the status quo to continue, which is profit-driven versus being people and planet-driven. And, you know, when we engage our community and it trickles through, you know, a low whisper becomes a chant when enough of us are doing it, right? And that chant is starting to magnify and be amplified, pun intended, you know, and if anybody gets that joke, I love that.
I'm not even going to go there just yet.
No, it's all good. But no, really, I mean, the people really are demanding better. There is so much science at our fingertips with the age of technology that we live in and information being so instantaneously available to us that we see that other countries are doing this better. We don't necessarily need to recreate the wheel on a lot of things. We can look to other nations and be inspired and write our policy and adjust our practices accordingly. I definitely think that if we don't ensure that there's enough of that collaboration across generations where there is that engagement and it feeds into decisions and policies being implemented that are in the best interests of our collective quality of life, you know, we stand to lose quite a bit. And you made a good point earlier about voting. Not everybody in this country is eligible to vote or is registered to vote despite being eligible to potentially. And that is, that's an issue in the sense of you look at it from the perspective of if the nation has pushing 80,000, give or take, that if only 30, 50,000 of us can vote, we're influencing decisions that affect people who are unable to vote, whether it be because they're not old enough, but they are Caymanian, whether they're not maybe able to get to the polls, and you know, despite the accessibility that we've been trying to get towards more in the community to really allow it to be a flourishing and healthy democracy. But again, it goes back to like if there's no harmony of mind and practice when it comes to actively seeking public input on major decisions that affect us, we're going to be very disjointed. And because there are people listening, there are people who are asking, yes, to your point, like my politician said they were going to do X, Y, Z, but then I read the news, I hear Parliament's been in session and this planning development or this development has been approved by planning, but what are you talking about? They said they were all for the environment, but this is going to destroy X amount of acres of mangroves. That doesn't, those two things don't correlate. Why is it that the capital investment is a squeakier wheel than the needs of a community that is going to be directly affected in more ways than just the economic side of that development? You know, and that's where we get into the conversation of an equitable society.
I was, as you were sharing, I was thinking of the scripture, 1 Timothy 4:12, but the let nobody despise you, because of your youth. But I may refer to it. I just wanted to make sure I looked it up to have the right reference. In relation to what you shared, and then prior about concessions, again back to economics, and economics isn't just about the fiscal and the financial; it's about the societal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in this context, I wonder to what extent, when we appreciate that a country, a government should provide incentives and concessions to encourage a certain thing to transpire, provide a level of protection for industry as an incubation. We see it in business, they have an incubation thing. It happens. But if that investment, and especially if that investment is driven by sort of foreign direct investment, we have these terms for it, and only because of the concession that this investment is viable, wouldn't it sort of quickly resonate that doesn't make sense?
Yes, personally it does. It very quickly does.
Right.
I've said this many times over the years, that if you can't afford the entire cost of doing business here properly, you cannot afford to do business here.
Period.
And I mean, the operative word here is properly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at all the layers of, we're looking at all the communities that will be affected, but also look at communities that will be emotionally affected. Like, I don't necessarily need to live in the proximity of a development to be emotionally affected by the fact that development might be taking place. You know, I still hold it dear in my heart and soul that this is my beloved Al Cayman, and any chip off of it is like, you just might as well just take an ice cream scoop and scoop a piece out of me. Yeah, it feels that way sometimes.
Exactly. We are affected by it. Let's take this call as well. No, yes, maybe so. I know during the break, Susan worked her magic, and all right, the caller is gone, and the cassava cake has been consumed, and we invite the rest to share. But what I'm prayerfully expecting is that through this particular platform and this discussion today, others will start to ask questions. And as we seek to hold each other accountable, we first look and say, hey, what is that person that is reflected in the mirror doing or not doing, saying or not saying? And sometimes we refuse because we don't want to offend, we don't want to be difficult or whichever. But what's the point in having someone close to you who isn't honest with you? Doesn't mean you have to be hateful in your honesty. Not only that the fact that you're being honest, that you can use that as a license to be hateful, but if you're not truthful with yourselves and with each other, how are we going to get to that place where you said, back to your point about a development? So let's take a nice residential development. Two immediate things come to mind. One, what's the cost of that development? The physical cost, and how much is being sold for? So thereby, who is able to access that? And then, is that development, not just this impact on the environment and all the other things, is it going to be accessible for us to maybe walk through the neighborhood for exercise? Is it going to be accessible because when we do walk through the neighborhood, we're not scorned or feel threatened or feel uninvited? Is it gated, right? If it's gated, is it gated because you want to keep the criminals in or criminals out? The people in there, what is it? And that probably isn't said the most diplomatic, but it isn't intended to. People need to start to ask the question, right? We talked earlier about food security. I've said this 1,000 times, I'm sure, by now, if not 998. So this will be 999. A fellow in a wonderful neighborhood said, I've come to understand now, it wasn't the whole community as I thought, but it was just one, his words, and I'll repeat it: loud, obnoxious, no good, no use, good for nothing thing, who living in the community. He has a nice swath of land in the back and decided, you know what, these trees make no sense. Let me put in a nice little garden where I can get some stuff that go to my table. And he, realized he loved this. It was good therapy. He would share it with neighbors, and they would, wow, you got fresh peppers, really? And then increasingly, the yields of the tomatoes sometimes were so much, there's no way I can all these to do. So he would give them to people, some of whom would sell them, right? And this neighbor, so to speak, was where you run the business. He like, really? Why I say that is that it wasn't just a case of a misunderstanding. It was a case of someone trying to influence something because they thought they had a little bit more money, or they were a little bit louder, they were a little bit taller, they were whichever. Luckily for the fellow that he was talking to, he's one of those good Caymanians that very amenable, got a little mixed blood in him, as he said, and that only makes him that much more, of a gentler person. He wasn't dealing with someone else that would, be a little different. How do we ensure that the former loud, obnoxious, no good, no use neighbor isn't the norm, and the more, of the kind of gentler, loving people that we have here are the ones that are celebrated?
No, I think it definitely goes back to, trying to embrace that more assertive rather than passive, and really combing people with a fine-tooth comb, our own people included, but seeing that we're not fostering and supporting, like I said, wolves in sheep's clothing. And another good point to make is there's a difference between being nice and being kind. And
interesting.
You know, there's what we were speaking about earlier is about holding our people accountable and the people who live here accountable and make the decisions and policies here, and having the courage. And you know, to me, as a emotionally intelligent, mature adult that I try to aspire to be, I want my friends to know that I am a safe space for them to call out my blind spots and hold me accountable if I mess up. And I'd like to see that more often. And boundaries come out of that. Good conversations and communication takes place out of that. We don't need to be brutally honest with people. We need to be kind to them. Being kind to them means we tell it like it is with kindness.
Yeah.
This is how we run things. We don't allow certain things. Why? Look around you. You see what you like, what you see. You like. Would you like to continue liking what you see? This is why we run things this way. And here, you can't come into my house and carry on and disturb my peace. Like, no, you are not. You would not be welcome. Why would I? You know, if we analogize it to look at it like, if somebody walked up to my front door with a bag of money and said, "I want to build a property in the back of your yard, and I'm gonna mash up all the trees and cut down everything, and it's gonna tower so high over you that you got pure shade, you can't see the sunlight, and you know when it rains you're gonna get flooded," and that, I would not allow that person into my home, and I would not, you know, be chomping at the bit to be like, yeah, I'm going to invest in it, give me the money and just go do what you gotta do, I trust you. Yeah, that doesn't sound like it makes much sense, but that's what we're doing with inward investment. And we're not, like I said, doing that due diligence and creating and maintaining and enforcing a framework around ESG standards that say this, you know, industry that we've built, this, you know, I'll go back to the financial services industry as an example. Think about how that system is designed to work. It is designed to bring socioeconomic justice. It's designed to foster local entrepreneurs and create and maintain a flourishing local and global economy. But what we see happening is we see cost of living crises. We see inflation rate issues. We see that global conflict is leading to supply chain issues and this and that. And at the end of the day, the investors, the shareholders, they're benefiting, but it's coming at the expense disproportionately of a lot of people in Cayman included. When we have to keep trying to maintain that hamster wheel that's not sustainable, like, we're going to burn out, and that's what's happening, really.
And it's interesting. I come back to what we shared earlier, you know, trusting but verify, or just repeating without appreciating. Whatever the reason, you know, we can have a discussion at any point. There are some challenges we get in certain commodities at certain times for certain prices. Supply chain issues, fair enough, right? But when I heard the press release from the insurance industry about the premiums for renewals on property insurance being increased 15 to 30%, that's seemingly going to happen, and here are the reasons. But the first press release said, supply chain issues. It was misplaced in my mind, right? No question that there is an issue of whether there's sufficient capacity from the reinsurers, the increased demand, you know, increasing the price, economics, right? Whether that's manufactured otherwise is the case. But it's not a supply chain issue in the strictest sense. Why I said is that we need to trust, right? But we need to verify. We need to ensure, as you shared, that if we're going to build 30-story buildings or 300-story buildings, if we're going to redevelop this or develop that, do we need to have a vision? And does it need to be paced so that the thing we're doing today, maybe it's a good thing, but maybe it would be a better thing if we did it 10 years from today? Is it then that we're not sufficiently looking at it with a collective vision? Is it that we don't have the true sense of service to country, as opposed to the selfish ideals and endeavors that would create profits to us, whether that's financial or the little check on a resume to say, hey, you know, I did that. What is it?
I'll go with a great example that comes to mind, namely the East-West Arterial Extension project. And to me, you know, there's this is happening, you know, attitude, and it's being repeated enough that it's like, I guess this is happening. But as somebody who divides their time with a Gulf coastal state, namely Louisiana, I see where, to your point of, should we wait until we know how to do it properly before doing something right. And that's a great example, right? Right now, the plan is, as far as I'm aware, to just clear the mangrove area and fill in a road. Just how you see the current highway built is how that's my understanding of the plan.
Miss Emily, I do apologize. I was reminded by Miss Susan, hey, guy, the break. I'm like, what break? Don't want to interject your train of thought. We can revisit it when we come back. Phone lines are open if anybody wants to share with us. Please join us after the break.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
The MedLab team would like to extend their congratulations to all of the Heroes Day awardees. Thank you for your service. Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer. New year, new arrivals at Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery. Modern and stylish bedroom sets are up to 20% off. Save up to $600 on Beauty Rest Black mattress sets and iComfort mattress sets, including adjustable bases. Our Palliser shipment of quality sofas, sectionals, and sleepers has also arrived with great family-friendly steam-resistant fabrics. Discover all the new arrivals, including plush beanbags. Save now until January 31st, only at Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery, corner of Hospital and Walkers Road.
The application deadline for Education Council Overseas Scholarships for the 2023-2024 academic year is Tuesday, 31st of January 2023. To apply for an Education Council Overseas Scholarship or learn more about the various scholarship programs before the deadline, please visit the Ministry of Education's scholarship application portal at www.moescholarships.gov.ky or email the Scholarship Secretariat Unit at scholarships@gov.ky. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Education.
Increase your chances to win during the Rubis Pure Joy promotion. Don't miss Double Stamp Tuesdays and Thursdays at Jose's Rubis. Reflections offers you gas for less, and each time you fuel up at Jose's Rubis, you can enter to win weekly prize giveaways, plus the grand prize of a beautiful piece of land in Grand Cayman.
I'm sorry, what?
What did you say?
Yes, Double Stamp Tuesdays and Thursdays are back at Jose's. Lower priced fuel, awesome prizes, and your chance to win a $150,000 piece of land. Don't forget, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Jose's Rubis, you not only get gas for less, you get double stamps to enter to win a $150,000 piece of land in the Rubis Pure Joy promotion. Be entered to win in the Rubis Pure Joy promotion by January 27th.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to Ms. Susan and all the team that does the excellent work behind the scenes, and to our guests, and today especially to Ms. Emily Ducou. As I was coming back from the break, I was just laughing. And I won't talk out of school, but something you said just makes me chuckle. And we know this to be the truth, right? If we meet, we eat.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Food, my friend, it brings good fellowship.
It does. It's one of the most beautiful things is learning how to cook with what's around you and infusing it with your soul and your love to help that translate on the plate. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things.
And I thank you for allowing me to sort of say that publicly, because I think we know when food is cooked with love. Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the reasons why, for many of us, right, we believe that our mother's cooking is the best.
Yeah.
Because there's so much love.
Yeah.
You know, and even in absence of that sort of knowledge that they're not good cooks, the love makes it better, right? I have sat with friends where it's just bread and something in between the bread and just water. Not only because that's what we have, but that's what's the choice. But that love of fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
So in saying that, I'm asking, are we bringing love to our discussion? Right? I don't profess to be a biblical scholar, a theologian, or anything. I believe, again, just my belief, that when Jesus went into the temple, he chastised in love. He didn't go in there and say, "Oh, little boy, stop this foolishness now." He went there and he kicked the tables over, looked at one and said, "Boy, why are you going back and slap you?" He was pretty upset that you were carrying on. He said, "Boy, if I didn't have a little restraint, I would show you who man." Right? He went in there and that foolishness stopped.
Yeah.
But he didn't love.
Yes.
Right? Never chastise, they say, when you're angry. Right? Discipline and love. The East-West Arterial, the $20 million allegedly that's going to be spent to procure sand from Cuba. As my cousin talked about, our daughter sand on Poly Beach. The things that are transpiring in our society, that many of us, and I only say that as you were talking East-West, to go back to your comment earlier, the foreign nationals among us who exhibit incredible love for this country, some of whom would put the generational Caymanians, those before 11 generations, to shame.
Absolutely.
Because they see the beauty. They are just by their nature loving, kind, respectful people who appreciate what they have, not because of what they had where they left, where they were last living, or where they visited. They see what is here, the people, the nature. But yet, we as a people aren't doing what we're asking them to do. Unite. The East-West Arterial was going to be an impact like any development.
Yeah.
I can't tell you honestly, as not an engineer, not an environmentalist, I didn't look at the economic cost. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a necessary thing? But is there any information that is helpful?
Absolutely. There are several, resources out there that have been produced by organizations in our community that really care and love for this coastal environment. We've got the likes of mangrove rangers. We've got Sustainable Cayman, who their mission is to highlight the importance of the central mangrove wetlands. And going back to your point about, bringing love and discipline to the conversation, that's leadership. And that's doing the right thing, even if it's hard, because it's for the betterment of what you're in charge of doing. And to your point about people who come here and they almost treat our islands better than folks who've lived here, I think a key thing to note is, whilst for our island existence, people became adapted to living on an island, they sometimes did not leave that island. So they were perhaps unable to build the appreciation of what they stand to lose, because they might not know what's out there, and they might not know what other solutions have been engineered to allow us to transplant those engineering feats to our own shores to ensure that we can still live and breathe amongst this nature that we're all supposed to be actively working to protect because we love it. And we don't love it just because, it's therapeutic to us or whatnot. We love it because it's what allows us to survive. And, that's the little egotistical nature of humanity, where it's like we want to survive. And self-preservation is critical. And in doing that, feeding into the self-preservation thing, when we can calm down and just take a breather and really humble ourselves to know that there is expertise around us, around our nation, that we can use to our benefit. Going back to the example of the East-West Arterial extension, I mentioned that I divide my time between Cayman and Gulf Coast state, namely Louisiana. In Louisiana, you've got the bayous, which are very similar to our mangrove wetlands here. They're beautiful. They're admittedly, when people ask me what it's like in Louisiana, I say it's a lot of shades of brown. Like, the trees are just brown, and it's pretty, it's lovely. But when I come here and I see every color under the sun on a bougainvillea bush, and I see the beautiful sun shining, and it's not overcast, and it's not dreary, and just shades of gray and brown and blah. I mean, the blah is beautiful, but you don't understand. Cayman is nice, like when you
like cook food.
Yeah, right. And not to knock Cajun food, which listen, we can have a different conversation about Cajun food and Caribbean food. And
I got a family in the area, so I'm not arguing about that.
Absolutely, but that all comes down to the resourcefulness of those people and it developing into a food that is based on what's around them.
Yeah.
It was not about maybe nurturing the merchant and the trade and having that convenience of things that could just come in.
Right. Let's do the news.
Yeah.
And let's start with some narratives. I want to share 2 messages from our listeners.
Sounds good.
I'm glad that they shared because it's good to compliment as well as to criticize. So when we come back, we'll talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. In the forecast tonight, partly cloudy skies with less than a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the mid-70s Fahrenheit. Winds will be east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. In international news, Germany will only send battle tanks to Ukraine if the U.S. does the same, multiple reports suggest. Chancellor Olaf Scholz is under increasing international and domestic pressure to supply German-built Leopard 2 tanks or at least approve their delivery by third countries. Poland and Finland have both promised to send their Leopards but need Germany's permission to do so. But Berlin is still in talks with the U.S. about its official position. Many expect an announcement to follow a meeting of Ukraine's Western allies at the American military base of Ramstein in southwestern Germany tomorrow. 22 staff members at a prison in Illinois were sent to hospital this week after falling ill from an unknown substance, the State Department of Corrections said. Multiple prison inmates also required medical treatment. The employees fell ill after responding to a medical incident with an inmate. The inmate appeared to be under the influence of an unknown substance, a corrections spokesperson said. The hazardous materials team with the Illinois State Police is currently investigating the incident at the John A. Graham Correctional Center. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Between the traffic, the meetings, kids' activities, there just isn't enough time. Best Health Pharmacy was a game changer. Not only are they centrally located on Eastern Avenue, but they deliver prescriptions for free anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. I could not believe it. When my prescription ran out, they ran it back to me. Best Health Pharmacy, located at Crown Square Plaza on Eastern Avenue, across from Edie's Decor, offering free prescription delivery anywhere in Georgetown and West Bay. Call 949-1301 or WhatsApp your prescription to 924-5358. Best Health Pharmacy. Your health, your convenience is their priority.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Ms. Emily DeCruz for sharing with us. And as we get into the discussion, I was thinking as you were sharing about sort of a comparison between sort of coastal, waters and the bayou and our mangroves and the like, and maybe ask, if I recall it correctly, what the U.S. Army Corps engineers were saying relative to their levees and some of the things that they were potentially, as I understand from the news media, could have been negative consequences as a result of the work that they have done. Looking at the Florida, what was it called there now? Their body water.
Everglades.
Everglades.
Yeah.
Jeez, I stepped. Thank you. Right. Some of the things that they've done over the years that they're now trying to undo.
Yeah.
But this particular listener says, your guest is very much on point today. I hope the political powers of decision are listening too, or will listen later. Says we should send them all a link to the show. Okay, well, we'll do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
But I'm hoping that as I read that and listen to who's listening, who's sharing, that we'll draw, as you shared, the examples from around, many of us traveled. Our fathers and their fathers and the men of the year did travel, and they saw, and they have, I think, brought back good things. So if we've seen errors, we've seen good examples, and we are either following or failing to follow, then we're going to suffer.
Absolutely. And, we can learn from others' mistakes. And states like Louisiana and states like Florida, who we have a lot of parallels with. Louisiana has a very big petrochemical industry. But they also recognize that they're a very wet state. It's very low-lying on some parts. Yeah. New Orleans is a bowl almost. This is why we have such there in Louisiana. Why there are such strong storm management infrastructure in place, like the levees, and they overflowed. They broke, and they stand to have that happen again. When I visit Louisiana, there's a 23-mile-long causeway that is a road. It's a bridge suspended over a bayou. It's 23 miles long. It's one of the most beautiful bridges to drive over. Over Lake Pontchartrain. That it's gorgeous, and it blows my mind in the fact that we, as a species, came together and recognized we need to do this the right way. Because if we just cut through and build a road like a road is built and how we know roads are built, we'll just keep putting Band-Aids on it every year after every storm season, and the investment is we're just chucking money down the drain. We're not investing in our future. But they did it the right way. It took a year for every mile, roughly, which is to say it took over 20 years to build that. But again, it allowed a completely new avenue to open up so that people don't have to go around the lake. They can now go over it.
Yeah, and it allows the water to flow underneath.
It completely flows underneath. What you'll notice is that the trees actually have, because they don't have so much access to sun, underneath the bridge, it's 2 lanes on each side, going in each direction, east and west. And they grow around the bridge, but they can actually, the water can flow. And that's where, when you're talking in the context of the east-west arterial extension that's being proposed to get built over the central mangrove wetlands, it's really, really critical that water can continue to pass through. Wetlands are called wetlands for a reason. It's brackish water. It's very moist environment, and it's not something you can just fill in. And you'll be filling until kingdom come in some areas because it's just so wet there. And I say that to say, like, if we stop and pause and say, if we do this the right way, we build a causeway because, quote unquote, this is happening.
Yeah. Can I maybe ask of you of that, right? Because I keep thinking, and the reason why it was at 1 Timothy 4:12 that you said, I call it my students. We don't listen to our children as parents sometimes, as teachers sometimes, or when we do, we just give them an audience, but we don't pay attention. Yeah. Thankfully, that's changed, and to a great extent, and it's changing. Seasonal ponds was a term that was used publicly by representatives from the Department of Environment and other sort of environmentally minded people. A number of students, again recently, honored in my mind to be allowed to sit with them and listen to them talk, right? And they were brainstorming, that'll be about 3+ years ago. Forgive me, 2020 and 2021 Felix centuries.
Sounds a blur.
So I think it must have been 2019. Right. I did say it publicly, and the exercise at their invitation was, where's Cayman? Where's Cayman going? What's the challenge? That might have been 17. Wow. And I recall a number of the things that they shared about housing and the cost of land, and they were just brainstorming. So those who are not familiar with brainstorming, you just make notes. You don't critique anything. Any idea is recorded, and then you look at it, right? And a monorail and the little carts with all sorts of things were proposed, and where and how and whichever. And this would have been just before was it Christmas this year? Same group meet, and on the bottom of the new road, it's not Batamanu, is bottom of the new, right? On whatever this side of the road is, there's a sign, future home of the West Bay Police Station.
Yes.
Now, one of the students would probably be best described as anything other than an environmentalist. And I say that without any explanation. And said, look over here, just this land is dry. Why would we put it there when it should be put elsewhere?
Yeah.
Because of this student's comment, I asked other students to see whether this is something that they're consciously aware of.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised to understand the level of engagement, the level of discussion they have among themselves when they're on their devices, which absolutely sometimes frustrate me.
Yeah.
And they're gaming, the conversations that they're having, and the things that they're talking about. I was, wow, you guys are talking about this thing? You're actually aware of this thing? These are teenagers, some of whom are boy teenagers.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm not speaking it incorrectly. They're not talking about girls.
Yeah.
They're not talking about cars.
Yes.
They're having discussions that we as adults should be having about their future, right? And because one of us said, why would we build, now this is a West Bay, by the way, build that police station there? It wasn't just because of the environmental considerations. He did put that in. But he said, hello, line, you know the cost to build it there? This is a budding engineer and the like. Where do you put it? I asked him. Then he gave me a couple of examples. So I said, you know, if it's okay with you, I can say it on air. Hopefully I don't offend anybody and don't get called in and say, boy, what are you doing thinking and talking loud like that? You should just be shut up and repeat from the hymnal. Yeah. But he said, put it in Bosun Bay, put it in Brush Tree Hill for all these reasons. Yeah. A budding engineer, urban planner. I like the fact that there are young people saying that. So I just wanted to interject that. Why are we not listening? Why are we not inviting this discussion?
I think it goes back to decision and policy makers listening to the squeakiest wheel. But at the end of the day, those decision and policy makers need to understand that their obligation is not only to inward investment or to people with capital, it's to people whose time goes into creating natural capital that we can benefit from long term. If we've got stewards of our environment, that can mean so many different things to so many different people. However you take care of your beloved Al Cayman, no matter what that means to you, is positive. I mean take care. Whether that means you're adopting a more holistic diet, plant-based, local ingredients only, you know, maybe home gardening, that sort of thing, reducing your meat consumption, that idea. You know, there's definitely a large community that's engaged, and the youth are very, very, you know what, I'll be honest, we're frustrated. We're angry. We're not asking for much. We're asking for our survival to be prioritized. We've got an organization in Cayman called Protect Our Future. And to me, if I had been an elected official when that organization was formed, and I have said this to the leaders of Protect Our Future before, if I was made aware that you existed, a group of astounding 14, 15, 17-year-olds who have come together, giving up time that they should be putting into their education that is being paid for by their parents who are working hard, no matter what background they come from, I would be like, respectfully, I got this. This is my job as a policymaker to do exactly as you're demanding, as a constituent, as a member of my community that I'm in charge of leading. Go back to school. I got his boo-boo. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it anymore. I'm sorry that it got to this point. Take full accountability. Perhaps we need to work more on our PR. Perhaps we need to work more on youth engagement so that everybody has a seat at the table when decisions are being made. The youth is represented, the elderly are represented, and everybody in between.
Right. Quick short break. This is the final one. Is there a call, Ms. Susan? And then a call. But I think to your point, Ms. I think the problem is not only are some people not at the table, maybe it's the people who are at the table. You can't be a judge in your own cause. But anyway, let's take this call after the break. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
The MedLab team would like to extend their congratulations to all of the Heroes Day awardees. Thank you for your service.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce. All piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I'm hopeful that people listening have benefited and have been as intrigued and interested as I have with the excellent company, Miss Emily Duku. Hey, thank you very much, for being here with us. We have a couple of calls. Let's take them all. Hey, welcome, good afternoon, and thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, sir, and thanks for calling. But, you guys, if you want to operate a program like this, first and foremost, you need to get to your listeners. I called there about 3 or 4 times. So the phone rang out completely. I'm put on hold. Thankfully, somebody came back and said you're going to go to commercial break. But if you're doing something like this, and especially a program as interesting as you have going right now, and you keep chatting and not watching what you're doing, you guys need to just clean that up just a little bit more.
All right. Well, thank you for that. But just for clarity, not to defend, we are aware that we had significant issues with our phones. We were expecting that they were resolved. What you're reporting, I'm glad that you share with us publicly so that you and others would be aware. When the phone rings here, if it rings, we'll either hear it or see it. Unfortunately, in absence of you telling us that, we are not aware that what you experience is what you, as far as we're concerned, nothing was transpiring on our end. Just as an added sort of challenge, one individual messaged and said, "Guy, what's happening to your phones?" I called and some Indian sounding guy answered and said, "Boy, if you stay online, you could win the lottery." Right? So we know there's a problem. We don't know what it is. We've reported it, but I'm glad that you shared it the way you did. And for what it's worth, we're happy that you called, but it's nothing on our end. We did not see nor hear the fact that you were calling, so we were not ignoring it. But thank you for that. With that said, though, share with us.
Well, thank you for that. But like I said, let's not waste the time going through that.
No, but that's important because, see, we don't know that there's an issue. See, we could be thinking, well, there's nobody interested, no one want to talk. But for you telling us this, we can now publicly say to people, hey, either somebody sabotaging the line, either we got crap coming into the studio, or we got something else going on. Now, let's call a spade, and let's get it addressed so that you and others can engage us so we can hear from you. Right?
Sterling,
Mm-hmm.
I understand what you're saying perfectly well. Let's just call a spade, leave that alone. You've had to say what you said. Let's get on with the topic. Please.
Agreed.
Don't belabor that point.
Do you have a point, caller? Is there a question?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead. Listen to you.
You have an excellent guest on there. I don't know who she is.
Miss Emily Ducou. West Bay, from Cayman.
I think her points are well put.
Thank you.
And first and foremost is the first thing where we have to start is a look at ourselves as to who we are as Caymanians.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost is we've lost ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have, as she puts it, policymakers. We don't even have politicians because we have none that can offer any debate in context of the subjects that are being raised. And none of them understand the long-term prospects of what is really happening to our island. I have just an amazing thing, right? I have just had 2 different people call me, asking me if I know of any place where they can live. They are here. One of them has Cayman status.
Cayman status?
Yes.
Yeah, not Cayman. All right, gotcha.
Cayman status and Cayman today is the same thing.
No.
Let's just take that away, right?
Yeah.
We are debunking a myth now because we are no longer can go down that road. And
I thought the pronunciation.
The quicker that we learn that, the better off we are. This stupidity that we've got within and amongst us, that we are not one people. We need to be. Look at the Jamaicans.
Mm-hmm.
What their motto is? Out of many, we are one.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of them clubbed together. Do not propagate that, Sterling. Please.
Don't propagate what, sir? I make sure.
Cayman status of what it is, that it's not Caymanian.
Oh, sorry, no. Before I continue, can I don't usually do this, but just to make sure that I'm not at a disadvantage, I want to would you say who we're talking with?
Would I say who I'm talking with?
Yeah, your name?
I think everybody knows who you're talking with.
No, sir. I would venture to say I would know, but I would want to be absolutely clear.
Well, I don't have any problem in everybody knowing who I'm talking with. This island knows my voice.
No, sir. That's what I'm saying.
And you know it, and you have my number sitting in your phone.
Let me check. The reason why I'm asking is because I want us to do something that we said earlier, to be honest and to be willing to stand for what we believe in. Right? So to my point, it wasn't about Cayman status by ground or otherwise being different. It's the fact that we gotta start taking that respect for the way we say things, right? So I have a wonderful, loving family member that I absolutely adore, but she says Cayman, and to me the word is Cayman, just like it's Bacchus and it's Barbara. And the new year and new dawn.
You can say Cayman, you can say Grand Cayman, you can say Cayman Island.
Yeah, but you can't say Cayman. Okay.
Island.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't give one.
I do.
One rest behind whether we come from West Bay or East End or Georgetown or Button Town.
Yeah. I'm checking for your number, boy. I don't have it, but if it's who I think it is. All right, we can talk later, man. We can come into the studio with me if it's who it is, but.
We'll talk. We can always talk later, but I've got things I got to get to. I'm late for an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the young lady is absolutely correct in what she's saying, and if she's dividing her time between here and Louisiana, I'll also throw in the fact that although I've not been down on the bayou in Louisiana in years, it's very similar here.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we developing? Who are we really developing this island for?
Yeah.
That's the
Let me
question.
just say that we have gone to the point where everything is buried in concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And how many of 15,000 Caymanians can afford, and notice I said the word Caymanian, I didn't say the word Cayman status or whatever, because we have diluted our base so badly that we don't have anything in a middle class anymore.
Mm-hmm.
A middle class is the class that fuels the economy of wherever they are. People who will spend their money and spend their dollars to be a company. My granddaughter is currently trying to get a home. And the poor girl is suffering because she can't afford, and we just can't afford to go out there and pay cash. For something that started off at $395 a year ago is now costing $470,000.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this going to stop?
Yeah.
You know, you talk about these politicians. These politicians are not interested. You know what these politicians are doing? They're sitting out there and saying, oh, we're going to make it better for you. You know, we're going to bring more cruise ships. We're going to build roads so you can get this traffic off the road. They're not interested in finding a solution.
Mm-hmm.
A simple solution to traffic
Mm-hmm.
is there not. You got all of these people who come to the island, and every one of them, the minute they get off the plane, they're buying an automobile. It's a Japanese, worn-out piece of junk to bring to the island where we have, I don't know whether they think we've got infinity land, because that ain't happening anymore. I heard her mention something about trying to replenish West Bay Beach or something. I could be wrong on that, but stand to correction.
Yeah, we heard
About
that.
Bringing sand from Cuba.
Yeah, $20 million.
You know what is happening to us? We are taking our inland property, our mangroves. We are absolutely destroying the mangroves to build and to fill one end of the island, going down into the water table over 60 feet. When you look at the oceans, today the pristine, clean waters that we were famous for is now running through a coral island that is barely, a fragment of a piece of a 2x4, draining back out into the sea, polluting everything.
Mm-hmm.
If we had been talking about something that they wanted to do in this island for infrastructure, the first thing they would have been considering is a proper sewerage system. We got Georgetown Harbor still leaking into it.
Mm-hmm.
We got everywhere else east. Go look at the reefs. Go look at what we used to call and
look at the landfill in North Sound.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm going to go back to the vernacular, as you say, where the panchols are.
Mm-hmm.
You think you can find panchols going east anymore? Go find them. You think you can find one conch or one lobster? You think you can find one cobbler fish swimming along the edge of the shoreline?
Yeah.
You can't find a skill pot, no? You can't find a skill pot?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, these people that sit down and think that they're, and don't think or understand. And touching on another quick point, because I'm going to have to get off.
Yeah, we're just at the end. Thanks, sir. Thanks very much.
The people that are about being afraid to stand up because they don't know what the politician is going to think.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't care less what the politician is going to think. This stupidity that we have to be afraid in our own country, be afraid of our people. Our people in planning, who are they? They're Caymanians, right? But are they really reasonable? Are they looking at what these developments are doing and such like?
Now, when you're saying planning, is it the planning department civil servant, or is it the planning through the central planning authority that is an appointed board?
Planning through the central planning authority,
Okay.
planning department on a whole.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that I follow along. Uh-huh.
Nobody is looking at the future and the planning in this, right? There is places right now that I'm seeing in my industry. How, in the name of God, these places get passed and get a certificate of occupancy? I don't know. Maybe they got one planning inspector. And who is this planning inspector? He doesn't know any more than me. I mean,
You definitely support the points that I was making, which is that we need more holistic decision making to take place across the board.
We definitely do, my dear.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know you from Adam, but you make some brilliant points.
Thank you.
And even closer than Louisiana, if they wanted to look at something and take a leaf out of the page of their book, is to just look at the Florida Keys. US 1 to the Florida Keys and stop and break off a limb off of a mangrove tree.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you better don't let nobody see you doing that.
Thank you very much, and maybe through your continued voice, others would perhaps be likewise encouraged to, if not share, at least identify and maybe, see how we can work together. Hey, thanks very much, sir.
Yes.
I get so perturbed when I hear some of these stupid incendiaries, and I look every day at my island and I see what's happening, and people that just don't have the gall. They're just there to warm a chair or to do something.
Right.
There's no national pride put into our into our island.
Yeah.
Our people, they think by putting on a uniform, and they don't even know that uniform carries with it a certain status.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And the pride and stuff that it takes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. And I'm hoping that it will be more of us sharing thoughts that bring us closer together. Hey, have a good afternoon. Hope the meeting goes well, sir.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for continuing to advocate for our community.
Now, we've got a few minutes left. I would like just a second or two to read quickly 2 messages. This is in relation to the last point. One was the point earlier about selling. This listener shares, Caymanian parents and grandparents need to stop selling out their properties and turn it over, to them. As an example, I did it for mine, refusing the offers to buy out the property. This other listener in relation to traffic says, discussions that are very insightful on the subject of roadworks and their related impacts, and maybe someone has proposed this, but I would love if there was an official mandate that all political members of parliament and the heads of departments and their families are banned from driving privately for a month, and they all have to use the public transportation system that we all currently have. I would wonder how quickly they would have a proper public transportation system in place.
Yeah, I wonder too.
Who feels it knows it, right?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
And, that to that sentiment, when I go free diving and snorkeling off of the waterfront, I have the same thought in my head when I'm under the water. I'm under the waves. I'm looking at this beautiful reef life and this healthy, it's trying to thrive reef.
Right.
And I jokingly say all the time, I'm like, I dive through and I'm like, yeah, mash it up. Like, that's exactly what comes to mind when I see all this beauty. Yeah. And to that point, I think, if we got more decision makers under the waves to see, like, this is what we stood to lose with, like, the port as an example, that getting built, we would have lost all of this. Yeah. And even though the port is not to be, going to be built in the way that it was planned a couple of years ago, we still have so much to lose and stand to lose with that particular environment through other decisions.
Yeah. Mr. Deku, thank you very much. And as the last caller shared, as evident by our WhatsApp messages, your discussion, your points, very much on point, very, very, very insightful. And I'm hoping that we will have more of these discussions publicly, hopefully led by you, but inspired by what you share to encourage and nurture other discussions. Any quick thoughts as we close out?
No, definitely. That is my goal. I do want to get the community speaking a different tune, and having that whisper that's currently low rumble into a chant that is our nation speaking up and advocating for itself, for better, for not only our current generation, but in respect of prior generations that are still, at our disposal to rely on for ancestral wisdom and honoring their journeys to get us to this point and leaving something healthy for future generations to really inherit.
Yeah.
So much is at stake, and if I can encourage everybody, just challenge yourself to get out in nature for an hour a week. There are so many small spots that have been invested into by the likes of the National Trust. Every district has a small area you can go into, if I'm not mistaken. My favorite one closest to me is the Governor Gore Bird Sanctuary in Spots. It's so calm and peaceful. Another great spot, Eden Rock. Another great spot, Barkus. I mean, these, get out there and see what we have to lose. And I encourage you, if you have any questions about sustainability, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very passionate about this. I try to live and breathe it, but I acknowledge I'm not perfect. And we need to create tailored solutions for each individual, for the different hats that they wear.
Well, Miss Emily, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Yes.
And to our listeners, we invite you to join Mr. Art in the morning for the record. Come back for this particular time slot. The one and only Ray Banker sits with us. Mr. Loxler Banks hopefully will be able to join us as well. As Martha C was saying. And you want to see a beautiful history of rich culture, dynamic heritage. We're going to be looking at our Scandinavian sort of connections. Not many of us understand the reach. I'm always intrigued, inspired, and encouraged. And it's why you have that profound love and respect and honor for this country. We are a people of great resolve and resilience. All right. Until tomorrow, my friends, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
"46 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul of